Isn't high dose vitamin D just as good as prednisone? I got a comment like that recently, and this might seem like a good idea at first. And I know a well known influencer who promotes this as the best prednisone alternative. But this is actually a potentially very harmful comment to make. And I'm going to read the exact comment right now. Why would anyone take this poison? High doses of vitamin D and K2 have the same effect without the horrible side effects. That's just wrong. They do not have the same effect, and they do not have zero side effects. So I want to dive deeper into this because I definitely believe that you should be supplementing vitamins that are depleted, but I do not believe that these vitamins can replace prednisone. I do not believe that they can be an alternative to prednisone for most conditions. So I agree that prednisone can be called a poison. I'm going to talk about why that is and whether or not high doses can replace prednisone, and then how to make the best decisions for your health. So let's dive in. I could not agree more with the poison statement. Prednisone is a poison. In fact, sometimes my transcriptions of videos change the word from prednisone to poison, and I agree. Prednisone is a poison. The dose makes the poison. Water's a poison if you drink too much of it, right? And prednisone is the miraculous medication that can be poisonous because it causes so many side effects, so many horrific, terrible side effects. It's the best medication and it's the worst medication as far as how many side effects it causes. Some of the worst include weight gain, moon face, psychosis and mood changes, bone loss, bone breaking, bone death, insomnia, heart attacks, strokes, heart disease, increased risk for infections, and I could keep going for a long time because there are at least 150 known side effects of prednisone. It's definitely a poison, so I totally agree with that. But we're not taking into account the fact that prednisone is also life-saving. I would not be here right now on this video if it weren't for prednisone. I would probably be dead because I have an autoimmune disease called ITP, immune thrombocytopenia. My immune system was attacking my own blood cells called platelets. I was going to bleed to death without prednisone. And no amount of vitamin D or K2 or any other vitamin would have saved my life. I would just die. And so just saying, why would anyone take this poison clearly shows that there's a lack of understanding of the life-threatening conditions for which prednisone is a miracle. My condition, other conditions like Takayasu's arteritis, where there's inflammation of the aorta and other blood vessels, where you can die, where there's giant cell arteritis, where there's inflammation of these blood vessels, inflammation of the eyes in multiple sclerosis. These are life-threatening conditions, and prednisone saves lives. It is miraculous. I'm so grateful it exists, or I would not be here. It is a poison, and it is a powerful, miraculous, modern medicine miracle. The question is, do the benefits outweigh the risks for your condition? If your condition is strep throat or otitis media or just common pneumonia, it probably doesn't. It doesn't even help those conditions, and it should never be given in those situations. But if it's something where it's life-threatening, where you're non-functional, where you cannot live or do what you normally do, prednisone's worth it. It's whether it's necessary or not. And I guess in this commenter's idea, there's never a situation where it's necessary. But one ICU doctor said nobody should die without prednisone being tried on them. That's the truth, is it can save lives. It can make a huge difference in so many people, but it can cause so many side effects, right? So can high-dose vitamin D and K2 replace prednisone? Now, this idea is being perpetuated by a very well-known YouTuber with millions of subscribers, and some of the information shared by this YouTuber are accurate and some of it is not. There is definitely evidence that having low vitamin D is associated with worse autoimmune outcomes. So I totally agree getting your vitamin D up into the normal range. Definitely do that. Take as much as needed to slowly, gently get you into the normal range of vitamin D. The only way you can do that, though, is if you're getting your blood tested and know whether you're there or not. Low vitamin D has been associated with worse asthma, with worse psoriasis, with worse multiple sclerosis, with worse rheumatoid arthritis. Yes, that's all true. But is high dose vitamin D for long term a safe alternative to prednisone? There's no evidence supporting that. None. No evidence showing that high dose vitamin D is a good option to replace prednisone. It would literally do nothing for my condition. It would not help me not bleed to death. And there is evidence that getting vitamin D into the normal range will help those conditions. There is no evidence that going above that is going to help at all. No evidence, none. If you can find it, please leave a comment below and let me know. But in that video where this idea came from, there were several articles cited, and none of them even mentioned K2. None of them. Not one scientific article cited supported the use of K2. Not even the blog post talking about it. Other vitamins were mentioned, but K2 was never ever even mentioned as a good alternative to prednisone. So no, like K2 there's literally no evidence. Should you be using high dose vitamin D without K2? Totally different situation, because that is where this statement can truly be dangerous. If you simply use vitamin D3 high dose as an alternative to prednisone without K2, that's a bad idea, because super high dose vitamin D can lead to vitamin D toxicity. It can lead to hypercalciuria. That means too much calcium in your blood. That can lead to hardening of your arteries. It can lead to stones either in your bladder or your kidney or throughout your body. Like, having this metal mineral being way high in your blood is a dangerous, bad thing you do not want. We have to keep the calcium, vitamin D, K2, and all of the hormones involved in this cascade in a normal range. You do not want to throw one off so that the others are thrown off. You need to keep them safe. That can be more damaging than whatever you're replacing prednisone with. The risk of the calcium going into your arteries and hardening them is minimized by vitamin K2. So you should be taking the K2 with the vitamin D. That's a great idea, just not incredibly high doses. Like, that's not a good idea. You should only be taking enough that you're monitoring the levels with blood tests to get into the normal, safe range. A lot of people these days have low vitamin D because we never go outside and get vitamin D from the sun, which was the way our ancestors always did. And so it makes sense to supplement. I agree with that. But it does not make sense to over supplement, to lead to toxic levels. Vitamin D and vitamin K2 and many other nutrients are valuable. The doctors who prescribe prednisone the most, the rheumatologists, they recommend that while you're taking prednisone, that you monitor vitamin D and get it in that normal range. This is evidence-based medicine. This is a great idea. But mega doses, above and beyond that, there's no evidence to support their safety at all. Taking super therapeutic doses, mega doses, are not safe, are not shown to be effective in any condition. Back when that video was made by the other influencer, there was a Cochrane review that showed that asthma might be controlled by vitamin D3 supplementation. Like, it might help asthma. And since then, they did more studies to see if that was actually true. And unfortunately, it's not true that vitamin D3 supplementation can be enough. It simply isn't. Getting vitamin D3 into the normal range is a great idea, but it is not going to replace prednisone or inhaler. Asthma kills people. Do not go out and preach that these vitamins can replace prescription medications. I am a pharmacist, And I was taught that most supplements are a waste of money and you should flush them down the toilet. So when I had this epiphany moment, when I was personally taking prednisone and immunotherapy, chemotherapy, and I was suffering horrible side effects, and I had the thought, you need to create a supplement designed for people on prednisone. I laughed. I thought it was the most ridiculous thing. I don't believe in supplements, I said. But then I looked into the research, and taking vitamins like calcium, vitamin D, K2, potassium, and many others while on prednisone is a great idea. But you do not do that to replace prednisone. You do it alongside prednisone to minimize the side effects. It cannot be an alternative in and of itself. Having an alternative to suffering side effects, yes. Having an alternative to prednisone itself, no. And that's why I invented Nutranize Zone. It's a fantastic alternative strategy of just prednisone versus prednisone plus Nutranize Zone. This gives back those nutrients, vitamin D, K2, potassium, chromium, magnesium, all of these things that prednisone is stealing, that maybe you're more likely to have your autoimmune disease because they're low. This is replenishing them. But it is not an alternative to prednisone. It is given alongside prednisone. They are team players. You take the prednisone for whatever it is your disease is, whatever horrific reason you have, like me, to take prednisone, and then you give Nutranize Zone alongside it to minimize the complications, to minimize the side effects, so that all of the damage prednisone is doing, you're giving back the nutrients that it's causing that damage by depleting. For example, the calcium and vitamin D, it's stealing those, leading to bone loss. Give that back, minimize the bone loss, right? So I'm not against vitamins. I'm definitely not. But I'm against somebody playing doctor on the internet and telling people not to take a prescription drug that a doctor prescribed with a legal license and saying that vitamins are good enough to replace it, because that's simply not true. So definitely go get your blood tested. Get your vitamin D in the normal range. Take prednisone if you must, and take Nutranize Zone along with it to help you feel better. You just go to nutranize.com or Amazon to get Nutranize Zone to support you while on prednisone. And that's the best alternative, not stopping prednisone completely and assuming that vitamin D is going to be enough, because for most conditions, it simply isn't. If you really need prednisone, then you really need prednisone. And you can do what you have to do to minimize the complications. Signing off as Dr. Megan, your prednisone pharmacist.